Good morning, evening, afternoon, however you're watching this tonight or today or in the morning. And this is Graps TV and the Weekly Angle. I'm your host, the Matty Man. This week's Weekly Angle is the entire show of All Out. You say, Matthew, why is an entire show an angle? I'm going to get into that. Got a couple little bits of news for you here. If you haven't heard or you're living under a rock, it has been confirmed that the Warner Brothers Discovery AEW deal is a done deal. Max is going to come into that, and that's going to be where the pay-per-views go, and that's perfectly okay with me. But if you haven't heard it, we don't have all the details yet. We don't have the dollar figures. We don't know how Max is going to lay out for the pay-per-view, but we do know that the deal is done. And Max is going to be carrying the pay-per-views. Max is also going to be carrying a library. Are the previous pay-per-views going to be in the library? We think so. Which means you're going to get a whole lot of recordings out of me when I cover some of these shows that I watch, because I am going to binge watch every AEW pay-per-view. Gonna binge watch it. Pretty much how it's gonna go. Not gonna lie. But anyway, this is our weekly angle, and the weekly angle this week, we used to call it Fire Stories, but I finally got the correct stuff for what I wanted it to be, and this is what it's going to be. It's our weekly angle. The entire show of All Out is the weekly angle. Now, I said I would tell you why, and it was because in case you were, once again, living under a rock, the entirety of WWE drones lost their ever-loving minds starting Monday morning, and it's still going on as of the date of this episode. Saturday the 15th. As of Saturday the 15th, the hate is alive and well. All Out was trending for 3 days, 72 hours. All Out was trending. And it was trending for a lot of different reasons. I mean, we could go through the card. I'm going to skip the 0-hour matches because the card itself is what drew it. I'm going to run through the card real quick, and then we're going to break this down like a fraction, as a buddy of mine would say. I'm going to get surgical, not like Doctor Who. It'll be like Doctor What. But we opened up the actual main show with MJF and Daniel Garcia. It was a pretty good match back and forth. They definitely didn't phone it in. MJF picked up the win over Daniel Garcia. It leads people to speculate that Garcia is on his way to WWE, and I say fine if he is. It's working out well for Ethan Page. Ethan Page even praised WWE for their structure and everything else. So I think that probably for Daniel Garcia, maybe he needs that structure for about 3 years, and then he can come back, do something with the structure that he's got, that he's learned, and maybe light will dawn on head and he can start doing this stuff for himself like the successful people in AEW do, day in, day out, night in, night out. It's not that Daniel Garcia is a bad wrestler or a bad performer. He just doesn't fit in very well. And I think he knows that, and I think he's well aware of it. Maybe a change of scenery, a little bit of a facelift, a makeover, that'll probably do him wonders. Ethan Page doing well in NXT. There is absolutely zero reason to believe that Daniel Garcia cannot bring that little hip thrust dance with him. And the WWE crowd will eat that up. Absolutely no doubt in my mind they'll eat it up. Might be better for him. A lot of y'all say we sit there and we damage wrestlers and we defame them because they're leaving AEW and they're going over to the dark side, which is really the dumb side. Actually, we don't care. If we'd have gotten Natalya, we'd have been like, wow, that's a good pickup. But we didn't get her. First thing I did was say congratulations on your new contract, Natty. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will still be a fan. I will always be a fan. Now, some people were like, I can't even believe you were considering AEW. She probably wasn't, to be truthful. AEW was probably 100 miles off her radar at all given times. I think it was just a matter of what her roles and responsibility were going to be in WWE, but I digress. Daniel Garcia lost this match. He did get his comeuppings at the end of it, and he did beat MJF off of television. And for those people who are worried about MJF, he's perfectly fine. He's getting ready to cut a movie. We knew that. Like 20 minutes after the match was over with, they were like, yeah, MJF's going to shoot a movie. Kind of like, Drew McIntyre did, and some stars from AEW showed up at the premiere, Mercedes Moné, and, they supported their friends. The wrestlers support each other. So when I say just shut up and enjoy wrestling, if the actual performers can be seen in public, definitely something that never happened when I was growing up. You would have never seen an NWA and AWA star in the same building. And barely you'd be lucky if you saw them in the same city. Kayfabe was kayfabe. So if those folks can do it, why can't we? Because the last time I checked, ain't nobody paying you to hate anybody. There is not a job. I check the job listings all the time. Professional hater is not out there. So cut it out. But anyway, Daniel Garcia got his piece out of it. Then we moved on with the Young Bucks and the Blackpool Combat Club. That was kind of a decent match. Come to find out, the Young Bucks had an injury going on, so I'm not even gonna say anything about their performance. I thought the performance, considering what I know after the fact, was phenomenal. No real violence there, but they got the match across. They beat the Blackpool Combat Club, and of course there was something missing out of that match. We're gonna find out what was missing just a little bit later. Then we had a cheat code of a match: Will Ospreay and Pac, however you want to call it. This one had the drones going crazy because, Pac and Will, they do that flippy shit as I hear it. But they did a lot of that cool shit too. Some of the moves they did in that ring are not humanly possible. And I do believe that Pac is one of the very few wrestlers that can go balls to the wall with Will Ospreay. And I believe that Will Ospreay is one of the few wrestlers that can go balls to the wall with Pac. Jay White coming back will be one of those that can go balls to the wall. They put on banger matches all the time. Plenty of story behind this. They actually broke out a video package for the clueless WWE drones who might have stumbled in to an extra $50, or they might be bootlegging it like they normally do, or VPNing it on the cheap like they normally do. So here we are. This is what we're doing. Ospreay, Pac, cheat code. Cheat code from the introduction, cheat code from the first bell, cheat code to the last bell. Total action all the way across the board. All Out was still trending. Then we got into our first little bit of violence. Chris Statlander versus Willow Nightingale. She's so adorable. I thought the light tube spot from Willow Nightingale definitely set the tone for the rest of the night. I think it told us that you could see some deathmatch elements in the rest of the night. It was sort of like a peep, like a peek. Like they cracked the curtain just enough for you to get a peek of what was in store. Because if you've never seen a deathmatch on GCW, you're missing it. First couple of times you're like, wow, this, and then you start get into it. Same thing with this. So Willow Nightingale brought out the light tubes. Chris Statlander hit her with everything and the kitchen sink. Finished it off brilliantly. I gotta say that split spot on the thumbtacks, that was a little bit, it was good. It was over the top. It was great. And we're gonna lean into that shit from now on. Fellow sickos, I think it's time that every time somebody gripes about one of our matches being too extreme, gripe back about their matches putting us to sleep. Lean into that stuff. That's what I'm doing with this. That's why this is the weekly angle. I'm leaning into it. I'm leaning all the way into it, too. Chris Statlander picked up the pin. Cheat code of a match. Candidate for Women's Match of the Year. Candidate for Extreme Match of the Year, because these two ladies put on one hell of a clinic on how to do this from a female perspective. They made it look tough. They made it look hard. They made it look street. And that's all that mattered. Cheat code of a match. Chris Statlander picked up the pin. Then we run into Kazuchika Okada versus Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and Takeshita. I'm not even going to try the first name. I did really good with Okada. I'm not going to push my luck. The match here was Okada and Takeshita with Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe as sidekicks. Now, we got a little stare-off between them, and it was cute. That was really good. The match we were looking for, the angle that is opened up now is Okada and Takeshita going for that Continental title, going hard. Now, I got interrupted, so on and so forth. Takeshita finds himself outside the ring. Orange Cassidy eats the pin. Nothing really big with this. The only thing I would have done differently here, and I really would have done this differently, is I would have put Mercedes Moné earlier in the card, because that match deserved an earlier time. By the time we got to Mercedes Moné, everything had already played out, and the crowd had already been wowed out a little bit. Even though that match did get a little out of hand at the end, Mercedes Moné, Hikaru Shida, cheat code of a match all the way through to me. Now, I did see where they got a little testy with each other, and everybody was quick to nitpick that. You know what? It happens in the ring. It's happened before, and I think Mark Henry did step up a little bit and say, hey, me and Sheamus did that shit earlier. So he kind of understood where it was going from. 2 instances at least. I agree with him. I saw at least 3 personally. Not that I'm better than anybody else, but I'm watching matches with an analytical mind and trying to have fun at the same time. Also talking to my kid, trying to explain to him about AEW wrestling, because the most he had seen is like one AEW show with me, and he's seen mostly WWE, like fluffy stuff. But Mercedes Moné picked up the pin, dashed in the back. Then we had the fake story put out by Sean Ross Treesap that security rushed back in the back, given the feeling that we were going to have some all-out brawl like we did the last time with CM Stunk. You know, they were doing everything they could to take the focus off of this show, guys. Why would this not be the angle of the week? Why would this show not be the angle of the week? Do you know how hard the WWE drones, the dirt sheets, and the paid shills worked overtime to try to undermine this match? They were live tweeting, oh, this is bullshit, and this is that, and this is this. I mean, even WWE performers were having their own little spaces to try to put. It was balls to the wall, all hands on deck. Can't be watching all out. We got to do everything, and it didn't work. The show hit. The show made news. Now we're getting into the controversial parts of it. Bryan Danielson, Jack Perry, cheat code of a match. Cheat code, cheat code, cheat code, cheat code. You should rewatch that match at least 5 times, because these two gentlemen defied physics. When they hit and went sideways instead of backwards, that defies physics, guys. A lot had to happen to pull that off. Cheat code of a match, fantastic. It really did feel like there was something missing. The Blackpool Combat Club shows up to congratulate Bryan Danielson. Jon Moxley gives him a hug. Claudio Castagnoli gives him a pat on the back and immediately gives him a European uppercut, followed by a bag over his head by Jon Moxley. The crowd was stunned. The bag over his head, Bryan Danielson gasping for air. taking it down to its least common denominator, getting it there. They had to physically carry his unconscious body out of the ring. The dirt sheets had it right there. They were tweeting, "This is unacceptable. This is over the top. There are kids watching." Guess what? There are kids watching Hank Void burning a dead body in a hole on Chicago PD. There are kids rewatching that right now. Just for a point of reference. There are kids literally at home right now watching that. Just so you know. Not to be outdone, the piece de resistance, the chef's kiss itself. Hangman Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, lights out, battle to the finish, knockout. That's how this match is going to go down. And these two gentlemen put everything on the line. Back and forth, off a cinder block. Guys, this was unparalleled violence. And at the end of the match, Hangman gets him the Novocaine syringe. In case y'all didn't know what that was, Novocaine numbed the head up a little bit. You know, I don't think it was anything really, but that's what it was meant to symbolize. Probably making fun of Britt Baker on top of everything. Probably shitting all over Britt Baker if you look at it for what it is and not what you want it to be. And that stiff chair shot. That is the loudest chair shot I think I've ever heard. I swear it had to have sound effects. There is no way in the world anybody lived on that. But it was a gimmick chair. The floor, the seat went out. Basically, Hangman did Swerve's shoulders, probably a bruise on both sides. True story. Swerve's okay. He's kicking around earlier today. Perfectly fine. He knows how to count his money. He's not going 1, 2, 27, 38 hike. He's good. Everybody's good. The match is over. The drone's meltdown does not even describe this. People are like, I'm going to stay off social media for a couple of days. I couldn't because I don't have their draw. But I got to tell you, man, the amount of hatred, especially from the soy boys like friggin' Disco Inferno. He was trying to have shit with me. Even quoted my tweet on his show. Thank you, by the way. I needed that. Thanks for the engagement. Rule number 1. Don't mention what people say to you on your live show. Somebody's going to go look for it, you dumbass. That's neither here nor there, though. Hangman Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, lights out, unsanctioned cage match. If that is not the hardcore match of the year, period, it will only be because they figured out how to outdo it at another pay-per-view during the course of this year. No pause. Overall, absolute phenomenal match. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Enjoyed the drone tears, made my tea with it. I got a gallon of tea that I made with your drone tears. Ladies and gentlemen, that is why the entirety of All Out was the weekly angle. Tony got exactly what he wanted out of it. The press was over the top. The GCW fans who may be leaning WWE, I don't know why, because it's such a stark contrast. Those folks tuned back in. Dynamite up 100,000 viewers against the MTV Video Music Awards, man. Raw, SmackDown lost hundreds of thousands. Dynamite picked up 100,000. They were at 718. Actually picked up 108,000. They were at 718 over 610 from the previous week. And those numbers are going to continue to go up as long as we keep getting matches like this. People are going to be curious. People are going to love actual professional wrestling again. And once again, that is why All Out, of all the shows this week, of everything, you can't put a match out of that and say that was the angle of the week. The entire show was. Tony Khan got his billing. The dirt sheets had their meltdown. The drones had their meltdown. It was nuclear all week. Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan's got nothing on this at all. Period. No debate. No discussion. And that is why All Out is the angle of the week, the weekly angle. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to just say what I said in a live stream not too long ago. We just had a hurricane go through Louisiana. Take some time, call the persons you love, let them know you love them, because you just never know when it's going to be your last day. Life is short. It's shorter when you're stupid. Don't be stupid. Call your family. Talk to your family. Talk to the people you love. Let them know you love them. And that's all I got to say for the night. Thank you for watching the show. This has been Graps TV and the Weekly Angle. I'm your host, the Matty Man. And I would just like to say good night, America, or good day, America, or good morning, America, wherever you are. Peace.